So I want to address an issue that I brought up on a podcast episode a while ago. And I don't know in what context it came up, but more or less I said, there's going to come a time where I think I'm going to stop buying new video games. And I think I've reached that point. I never thought that I would get here. And as a kid, I always said to myself, when I get older and I have my own money, I'm going to buy every new game that was interesting to me. And I've done that more or less for the past 7, 8 years, but just the developments in gaming have gotten to a point that I find myself getting really disappointed by a lot of the new releases that I pick up, sometimes in major ways, as you saw if you watched the channel with Street Fighter V, Batman, Arkham Knight. I mean, those games were deeply disappointing. Things like Tekken 7 that I picked up this summer, which, while not really bad, just kind of felt like another game engine pretending to be Tekken. It felt uninspired, if ultimately mechanically competent. Even Sonic, the new Sonic game that came out, Sonic Mania, a game that I was very much looking forward to, I picked that up within the first hour of it being out on the PSN. Was going to pick it up for PC, but that was delayed. It is a very, very good game, extremely nostalgic and a lot of fun, but even little things about that game bothered me, like the fact that extra lives were so hard to come by. If you you couldn't start the level, if you died, you couldn't start the level after Act 1 and just play through Act 2. Or at least when I checked, there was no cheat code or level select, like old school level select for the PlayStation 4, the way there was, or the way there is for the Switch. And since I had free time, I just kind of played through it and forced myself to go through the levels and just kind of slowly fought my way through the game and ultimately had fun. But I could have seen myself, if this was really in like a crunch time at work or something and I just wanted to relax with the game, I probably wouldn't invest the time to go back and try the, spider boss again. I think that was into the 4th level in Sonic Mania. Just little things like that where game developers don't really respect the time of older players. And I've reached that point where there's a lot of different things that I can do with my free time. There's a lot of kind of professional commitments and things like that can take away from your free time. So when you make the time for gaming, you want to use that time as freely as possible, and you want to explore the game in the way that suits you. And I did an episode on game design for aging gamers and game design that kind of respects your time and gives you the choice of how you want to proceed. So there's that aspect of it too, not to mention the things like DLC, the microeconomies, microtransactions, the freemium feel to $60 AAA games, and in a lot of instances, the lack of originality, the attempt to be Hollywood cinematic experiences on the one hand, or just the kind of rehashing of these franchises year after year. And this is not a position that I'm happy to have arrived at. I'm saddened that all these different elements have conspired to make gaming less fun of a hobby. And even when you look at new technological innovations like virtual reality that were legitimately exciting within that first 72-hour window of purchase, and also strangely social if you had people over and you kind of walk them through the experience and you kind of enjoyed them having fun with it, that also waned, and it just became something where, yeah, this is a cool new technology, but I'd rather play games the old-fashioned way without a huge black box strapped to my head. So I found myself in a position where I sort of likened it to sports. I used to be a big sports fan as a young person. Then eventually the cost of going to games, and I had season tickets to the New York Giants. spending 8 hours on a Sunday to fight through god-awful New Jersey traffic to get to the stadium. It just became irritating. And the same thing with, my local teams, the Yankees, the Devils, the Knicks and the Nets, driving to these places or taking the train to go see these teams became just something that, just wasn't a productive use of my time. So I stopped going to those, live events. And then after a while, I got bored of watching it on television. So many commercials, just brain dead commentary. The sort of stratification on cable, where what used to be on ESPN was now on ESPN3, but the AL Championship is on TBS, and then if you want to watch the World Series, you need FS2, and all of this bullshit, quite frankly. So it just became, sports has become a kind of thing with me where, hey, if a buddy of mine says, hey, you want to come over and watch football, I'll go, see what's going on in the league. If someone says, hey, there's this unique sporting event. Last year, someone was like, oh, you want to go to the PGA Championship? And, he had tickets. And I said, oh, well, okay. It was right down the road. Let me give it a shot. But it's not something I'll do on a regular basis. And I think gaming is getting to that point where, as far as new games go, I'm not talking about retro games, but as far as new games, I think I'm just finding myself, I'm going to adopt a mentality of, you know what, I'll wait till it's on sale. I'll pick it up on eBay used, or I'll wait till Black Friday or something and give games a try. I find myself kind of thinking that way about Horizon Zero Dawn. It looks graphically impressive, but it's not a game I need to pay full price for. I don't particularly think I would enjoy the narrative that seems to be included in that game. I would like the exploration, but that's something I can try for $30 on a Black Friday or $20. And as far as having a gaming PC, very rare that I'll pick up a PC game for full price, and I'll just wait for the Steam sales. And I think that would always bother me because I wanted to be in on the ground floor. I wanted to be in on launch day. I wanted to, have those experiences immediately. And then also, now in the era of the internet, be able to share them. But even that has become somewhat of a time sink, in the sense that for someone like me, as much as I enjoy coming on and reviewing a game and talking about my experiences, if it doesn't generate any conversation, if no one's really seeing it, why am I doing it? You might say, why am I making this video? Well, I'm bored and can't sleep, so it seemed like something to do to pass the time. It's also a shame because as I look back on 2017, I actually had some really terrific times with gaming. Ratchet and Clank, picked that up used, and that was one of the most enjoyable games that I've played in a long, long time. I mean, it really took me back to the old school level design, but it was also a labor of love. Enjoyed every second of that one. Of course, being a Yakuza fan, we had Yakuza 0. Picked that up day one, loved every second of it. Looking forward to Kiwami in a couple weeks. What else did I play this year? MLB 17. You say sports games are the worst games to buy new, but I picked that up new. Hadn't played an MLB game in years. I hadn't picked up a new one in years, and I spent quite a bit of time and a lot of enjoyment with the career mode in that game, which is not a mode that I typically play. So it's a situation where there are good games out there. There's a lot of creativity. There are a lot of, I think, impressive, enjoyable games that are sort of made in a style that really grabs me. But it's just hard to constantly search them out. It doesn't seem like a useful expenditure of time and money to go buy all of these games just for the 2 or 3 that might be interesting and that I might enjoy. like I said, for things like Tekken, Street Fighter V, Batman, Arkham Knight, there were a lot of those games that just were disappointing, and very few that I was able to, become absorbed into. So I'd be curious to know what other people think about buying used games, or the state of modern gaming. Also curious to know if age has changed your approach. See, I like to think that it hasn't. I like to think that now that I'm older, I have the money to pursue the hobby. And I would be, if they released something like, I don't know, the Chrono Trigger or The Secret of Mana or something like that, games that I really got excited for as a kid today. I guess they are releasing, I think Secret of Mana is coming out on Steam or something like that. But if there were games that just got rid of all of these little, the DLC, the microtransactions, all of the things that make gaming frustrating, I like to think that I would be excited. And if anything, as you get older, you have a heightened sense of appreciation. You have a broader perspective on where these games fall in the history of gaming. So, and you have, in my case, now I have a fair bit of free time as opposed to a couple of years ago. Plus, you have disposable income. So this should really be the sweet spot for gaming in a lot of ways. So in a way, I don't really believe that it's just me getting old and crabby, but that it's an industry that's getting kind of repetitive and lazy, and it takes a lot of work to find those diamonds in the rough. So then again, you may think that with all of my critical takes and my opinions that, yeah, maybe I am just getting up there and getting cranky. So curious to know what your opinions are. Leave them below.